Greetings, it's Ian from RTO here. Welcome to another sort of battle of the debuts. I think this one is definitely a debut. And as I said, the June, July, it would be a viewer's pick. So everything that's in Battle of the Debuts this month is going to be viewers' picks. Some of them are not technically. There's a couple I think that are not technically debuts, but I threw it out to you guys to come up with two albums we can have a battle with. So today we got one that was put forward by our very own mastermind Dave, who actually didn't cheat. He put it on the wheel like everybody else and it randomly got picked out. So it is Blue Angel against Black Rose. Now normally we say, oh, it's the first album that goes first, but I couldn't find one of the albums come out, so I've just done it Blue Angel first and Black Rose second today. So Blue Angel are an American band that featured Cyndi Lauper before her rise to fame as a solo singer. They only made the one album, and then Cyndi left and became a very successful solo artist. She actually did one of their songs, I Wanna Be Strong, that she did in 1994. Now the band briefly reformed without Cyndi in 1987 under the name Boppin' the Blues. Cyndi did join them on for a one-off performance in New York's Lone Star Cafe, singing Big Mama Thornton. A Big Mama Thornton song, That's All Right Mama. They've now disbanded and do not exist. So the debut album came out in 1980 and it's just a self-titled album called Blue Angel. So we've got Cyndi Lauper, lead singer and acoustic piano, John Turi, keyboard and saxophone, Johnny Bullet Morelli on drums, Lee Brobovitz on bass, Arthur Rockin' A. Nielsen on guitar. So it's basically like a sort of a rock and roll band. So the first track on here is called Maybe He'll Know. Now this is really quirky. It's a cross between rock and roll and bubblegum rock. Keyboards are pretty good in it, and it's got that very distinctive Cyndi Lauper vocal. It's quite a good track. Next track on this one is called I Had Love. Now this has got a very 60s vibe to it. I mean, I think Cyndi Lauper is a good singer in her own right. Didn't mind her stuff, to be quite honest. I thought it was poppy and quirky, but this is really 60s. It's got that high pitch sort of keyboard sound that you got on Del Shannon's Runaway. It's very, very good. I quite like that track. Fade comes next. Now these are about that keyboard again. It's sort of a rock and rolly sort of bubblegum track with that lovely high pitched keyboard that's not, doesn't hurt your ears. It's just a really high pitched sound. It really works. Anna Blue comes next. Now this is a great rock and roll track. It's got a saxophone solo on it. It's got some boppies and all that. So it's pretty good. I quite like that. Can't Blame Me. This is a little bit different. This has got that definitely that new wave of the 1980s sound to it. It's got a great bass line. Really good track. Then we get Late, which is a really good rock and roll track. And I love that. It's just proper rock and roll. Cut Out. The drumming at the beginning in this is so much like the Safari's Wipeout. And then it just goes into some great rock and roll. Okay, it does sound very similar to Wipeout, but it's still a great track. Take a Chance. Now this has got that 50s feel to it. it's just a nice song. There's some great musicians on here, and Cyndi sounds great on this. Just the other day, got a little bit of that Motown vibe to this one. Pretty good again. It's just a solid track. I'm Gonna Be Strong. Now this is we all know this one because Cyndi Lauper did it in 1994, and this is how it originally sounded. I think when Cyndi done it again, she did a better version of it, because this is the one that didn't really. I don't like this. I thought this will be good. No, I'm glad that Cyndi took it and redone it. Then we get Lorraine. It's got that sort of Pretenders feel to it, and it's a great vocal from Cyndi. And the last track on here is called Everybody's Got an Angel. Good little rocker. It's got that nice guitar riffs and that lovely 60s organ sound on it. Very solid track again. Now, considering I'd never heard this album until about 4 weeks ago, and I put it on, and I was just thinking, wonder what this is going on. And I like it. It's got some 50-60 sounds. I was pleasantly shocked, and I've enjoyed this so much I've put it into my Spotify library, because I haven't seen any solid copies of it. So I do like it. I think it's a really good album. Unfortunately, there are not many reviews on it. But what I did find was just that AllMusic did give it a 4 out of 5. Billboard underrated it, and Christian's Record Guide gave it C+. Unfortunately, it didn't chart anywhere in the world. I looked everywhere, all my usual research sources, and nothing came up. So I'm just doing this on what I think and a couple of the review scores. Song quality. There are some really good songs on here. I've got no. They're just good rock and roll songs. So I'm going to give that a 4 out of 5. Production, well produced. Just good, just sounding fun sounds. Everything is sort of plug in and go sort of sound, and that's really good. So definitely going to give that a 4 out of 5. Reception didn't chart, but AllMusic did give it 4.5 stars, and I like it. I know that means nothing in the bigger picture. So I'm going to give that a 3 out of 5 for reception. Now, cover design. Definitely an interesting cover. Not very creative. It just seems like they've got a background and got the band, created a PNG file and stuck it on. I think the actual backing could have been a blue colour, considering they're called Blue Angel. I think I could have done a better job of that, to be quite honest. So I'm going to give that a 3 out of 5. So for Blue Angel by Blue Angel gives us a grand total of 14 out of 20. Okay then, let's move on to Black Rose. Now this is another album that came out in 1980, and in 1980 Cher, and I like this, her part-time boyfriend, what we would call friends with benefits, his name was Les Dudek, wanted to form a band called Black Rose, and they got a contract with Casablanca Records, and they made this album that came out in August of 1981. It's called self-titled Black Rose. Her name never appeared on the album cover, but Cher's face is only seen in a band photo on the back cover. Well, there you go. So the band was Cher on lead vocals, Les Dudek on guitars and vocals, Ron Rocket Ricochet, what a name, guitars and background vocals, Phil Brown additional guitar on 88 Degrees, Mike Finnegan on keyboards and background vocals. We've got James Newton Howard synthesizer and keyboards, Michael Bodicker on synthesizers, Steve Porcaro on synthesizers, David Patch does some keyboards, Terry Thompson on bass, and Gary Ferguson on drums. And I did look into that, and that's Gary Ferguson that actually played with Gary Moore later on in the decade. So the first track on here is called Never Should Have Started. When I first listened to this, I thought, wow, very Jim Steineman. I can never pronounce his name. I've been picked up about it no end of times. You expect Meatloaf to sing, not Cher, but you can understand why she actually turned up on a Meatloaf album, because it's a great track, really, really good. Now then we get my favourite track called Julie. Now this is co-wrote by two great writers of the 70s, one being Bernie Taupin, who of course wrote for Mr. Elton John, and a certain Mike Chapman, who wrote for everybody in the 70s. And this is great. Cher puts a fine vocal on it, the singing's great, the lyrics are fantastic. You've got two great pop songwriters on this. It's quirky, it's foot-stamping, it's quite memorable. Very, very good track. Take It From the Boys comes next. I think this song would be a lot better if they took out that horrible keyboard. It didn't need it. It's a good rocker, great guitars, riffs, spoiled by a silly keyboard line. And it's a decent vocal from Cher. Unfortunately, they put this horrible keyboard line in it. We'll All Fly Home. Piano sounds good on here. Great vocal from Cher. What a fine singer she is. I do like that track. Then we get 88 Degrees. Good song. We've got the extra guitar on this. Just some great rock and roll sound. Good heavy stuff. I like that track. You Know It comes next. The start of this is very ABBA's Waterloo, but then it goes off into its own sort of thing. It's a good little rock and roll track. Cher's on fire. Really good. Young and Pretty. Some great guitar work here from Les Dudek. And it's got a classic sounding Cher vocal. Very strong vocals on that. Really good track actually. Fast Company. Another great rocker that ended the album. Very sort of Meatloafy, and you can understand why she went and sang Dead Ringer with Meatloaf, because this has got that vibe to it. And I wonder if she got the gig after they heard this song. Who knows? But I think this song could have been sung by Meatloaf himself. It's that good. Absolutely brilliant song. That was the last track. Again, I'd never heard this album until it got pulled out of the hat, as I say, and again I was really shocked. It's a good album. It's got that Meatloaf sound to it, the great guitar work and the dramatics, and once again this album has now gone into my library because I think it's a terrific album. There was a little bit written about it. Again, didn't chart. All Music did give it a 3 stars, but the reviews were mixed, so many critics questioning Cher's credibility and drawing comparisons to other new wave rock groups, particularly Blondie. Billboard magazine of the time said it shapes the new wave style and fits that mid-tempo rock mode which main group members are associated and about Cher. Especially well done through Cher's vocals are emotional and full of life on the entire disc. And People magazine said that Cher's quivering and over-mannered vocals on this LP need all the help they can get, and she gets more than she deserves. This album could be vastly improved, recorded by the group with no sugar. So there we go. So let's have a look at the nuts and bolts of this one. Song quality. Again, very good songs. Quite memorable songs as well. And so I'm going to give that a 4 out of 5. Production. Very good production again. It's a really good sounding album for the time. And so I'm going to give that a 4 out of 5. Reception. It sort of got absolutely caned a little bit. All they're saying is the best thing on it is Cher. I tend to disagree because I think it's a really good album. So I'm going to give that a 2 out of 5. Cover design. Yeah, this is another strange one. It's called Black Rose. You would expect a black rose on it. No, what do we get? A black shoe in a fishnet stocking. Too much purples and pinks. The pink black rose doesn't stand out. I've seen the back cover. That's a little bit better. That should have been the front cover. So I'm going to give that a 3 out of 5. So for Black Rose by Black Rose gives us a total of 13 out of 20. So on paper it should be Blue Angel, but when you listen to these two albums, the one that really sticks out for me is actually the Black Rose album. I think because it reminds me of Meatloaf's sound. Although, I mean, Cyndi Lauper is a great singer and it's a great rock and roll album, there was just something about this Black Rose album that really stuck out for me. I think it is to do with Cher's vocal performance throughout the album. There was not a bad vocal on any of these tracks from Cher. Blue Angel's a great rock and roll album, but there was a little bit more variation on Black Rose. So I'm going to give this one to Black Rose. Okay, that's me. Now, as some of you probably have never heard this, I'd go and, before you make your decision, go and listen to a few tracks. Or if you like this, just do the usual thing, decide. You don't have to decide today, you've got a week to do it, so make your votes on the usual places. And I will announce the winner next week. Okay, that's all for this one. We got another one, another viewer's pick next week, and it's a pretty good one. And I'll be back later because it's pick and mix, and today we are mixing it up, which means we're going to be looking at a record producer, and today is a great British producer called Mr. Roger Bain, who worked with in the early career of Judas Priest and Black Sabbath, but is also renowned for putting together some really good box sets for people like Judas Priest and Black Sabbath, and a few other albums that he produced as well. So we'll have a look at his career, and then I will pick my top 5 albums from his albums. So I will see you later. Bye for now.